Well, hello and welcome to Court Corner. Film actor Anil Kapoor knocked on the doors of the Delhi High Court to protect his personality rights, including misuse of catchphrases such as Jhakaas. The sobriquets such as Lakhan, Majnu Bhai, all associated with him. Now, the Delhi High Court granted an injunction against 16 entities over the illegal and unauthorized use of Kapoor's name, image, voice, attributes, and use of AI tools to morph his image for commercial gains. Now, the actor had alleged that his image, personality, characteristics were being misused via use of AI, memes, deepfakes, GIFs, etc. The court, while passing the order, observed that celebrities' right to endorsement could be a major source of livelihood for them, which cannot be allowed to be destroyed by permitting illegal merchandising. Now, with this, Anil Kapoor joins the club of Amitabh Bachchan, who had also moved the court seeking unauthorized use of his personality rights. That omnibus order by the High Court was passed in November of 2022. Well, now to discuss this, joining me now is Abhay Chattopadhyay, partner at Economic Laws Practice, and Harish Bijur, brand strategy specialist. Mr. Bijur, let me come to you first. At one point in this argument that was taking place before the Delhi High Court, at one point the lawyers for Anil Kapoor pointed out that the court staff, the staff of the judge, were laughing when the term Jhakaas was mentioned, pointing out that, look, here's a case of how well people recognize that and associate that term with Anil Kapoor himself. To begin on a lighter note, do you think Anil Kapoor, while watching this hearing, might have said Jhakaas once on hearing the Delhi High Court verdict?
You know, on a completely lighter vein, one look at Anil Kapoor and the one phrase that comes to your mind is Jhakaas. So I'm sure everybody who looked at him, would have imagined it if he didn't say it so overtly, which wouldn't be a correct thing to do in a court of law. But personality rights, I think a great thing to protect because, the future is more complicated than the past because AI and deepfakes are actually hijacking brand personas. And a brand is a bundle of associations. Anil Kapoor's association is Jhakaas. Amitabh Bachchan's association is his voice, his baritone. What would an Amitabh Bachchan be without his baritone? And of course, SRK, without that sweeping arm gesture of his, and of course, his Tata, Kiran. And I think, these are properties, well protected.
Mr. Bijur, if I may come in on that, there is no quarrel with the fact that as far as deepfakes are concerned, or misappropriation or misattribution of a certain comment or an action to an actor, of course, is not in good taste, and that is something that would require the court's protection. I am, however, on the larger subject of a lot of these comments, a lot of these dialogues, sobriquets becoming shared public memory. The question I want to ask is, what's next? We've seen omnibus orders being passed in favor of Amitabh Bachchan. Now, Anil Kapoor, what's next? Will there be a price now for the fans to pay when they want to perhaps, some of the examples that you shared, whether it's the hand pump of Sunny Deol, whether it's the Singham punch of Ajay Devgan, or whether it's... Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, see, let me put it this way. When it comes to persona property, a star is a set of associations. What is a star without those associations? And Jhakaas is Anil Kapoor's association. Now, the point is, if somebody wants to use it, it becomes using someone else's brand property. And to that extent, I'm sure Anil Kapoor has no problem if somebody pays him a royalty and says that I'm going to use this, and Anil Kapoor needs to sign, or his representatives need to sign and say, you're allowed to do it. Because, let me take an analogy. When you play music, which is actually composed by someone, and is actually played at a pandal, let's say, or it is played at Durga Puja somewhere. I mean, rightly so, you need to pay back royalty for playing in public, the music. So what you do within the house, how many Jhakaases you keep talking about, nobody is bothered about it. But if you're using it commercially, albeit even lightly, watch out, be aware, and beware. Because these are personality rights which are protected.
Sure. Mr. Bijur, let me then ask you a contrary question, just to play the devil's advocate. You think the big stars may be perhaps missing a beat? The question I want to ask is that when you talk of names of Anil Kapoor being splashed across GIFs, memes, or whether there are ringtones associated with films in which he's worked, T-shirts, badges, fridge magnets. This is the kind of publicity which democratizes the brand. You think maybe the stars are missing a beat and trying to mount a legal challenge?
Not really. Because the stars themselves are very worried. And I'm speaking on behalf of cricketers. A lot of cricketers are worried, just as film stars are worried, to say that, hey, listen, guys, there are very scant sets of properties that we own and have. And if we don't get to monetize it, I mean, we are missing the big bucks. Gone is the era where people would be very free about the fact that I get good publicity, I get positive strokes, I'm happy. Today, the new star, an actor and cricketer wants not only the positive strokes, but wants the positive monies as well. So, it's all about monetization. And these guys are about monetization.
Mr. Bijur, final question that is there a point that we reach? We've grown up associating many childhood memories with some of these actors, whether that's Mr. India, whether that's Lakhan, or whether, of course, the dialogue Jhakaas. We've grown up listening to them. Is there a point where they cease to become IPs of the stars in question and become perhaps a shared joint public memory?
Well, a consumer imagines and dreams that it's a joint public memory. But when a star actually goes to court and reserves these things, the star is telling the consumer, hey, listen, you enjoyed it. You enjoyed it in a cinema theater, and I was paid for it. But if you enjoy it in private, I don't have a problem. But in public, I certainly have a problem. So I think, it's all about saying private memories versus public memories. For public memories, you pay. And, over a period of time, these memories also fade. Okay. They used to be yodeling was an art and a sign of a particular actor out of India. Now, yodeling is totally out of the window. Even these shall pass.
Right, Mr. Bijur, thank you so much for joining us with your perspective. But let's also get in a legal point of view on the subject. We have with us Mr. Abhay Chattopadhyay, partner with the ELP law firm, Economic Laws Practice. Mr. Chattopadhyay, thank you so much for joining us. That last question that I asked Mr. Bijur, let me ask you that as well. Now, this time from not from a brand strategy perspective, but from a legal point of view, that when the stars go to court claiming IP over their dialogues, or over the titles that they've secured over these last many years, can a case perhaps be made that, look, this is not really a case of IP, but rather it's a joint public memory, and that's how it should be perhaps left to be?
Well, first off, thank you for having me. I think it's a slightly more nuanced and complicated question than that. At least the answer to it would be, because we're looking at a bundle of rights that are more to do with a celebrity's persona, their reputation, because there are so many intangibles that go into that, such as Mr. Kapoor, for example, went with his voice and his image, along with his name. So there will be certain characteristics, phrases, looks attributed to particular people. The question I think we have to ask ourselves going forward is whether the law, as it is currently in force and framed, allows for us to deal with such nuances, or whether we require maybe amendments either in the legislation itself or through court precedent. I think in the present situation, you're dealing with three main cases. One, there was a case in 2012 wherein Tanishq essentially sued on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Bachchan against a small jeweler in Muzaffarnagar, where the idea of the publicity rights was enunciated, which the court, for example, relied on Mr. Bachchan's second matter last year, and has, I'm assuming, done today as well. So it is about creating some sort of bright lines where both the celebrity as well as the larger...
So it's an evolving jurisprudence.
I'm sorry?
Right, Mr. Chattopadhyay. So it's an evolving jurisprudence. The question I want to ask then is, are the Indian courts perhaps missing a beat when they pass such omnibus orders, very difficult to execute? How do you enforce such an order? A very example would be today's High Court judgment itself. This story has gone viral. Chances are that there are thousands of memes and GIFs being exchanged on WhatsApp, on other messaging platforms. How do you even check the outpouring of support of perhaps comments and social commentary that happens using some of these titles and sobriquets?
So I think that the trick in that is to look at what at least has been reported, and even with the prior precedent, where it comes down to commercialization and whether there's a monetary advantage being sought by the person who is engaging in the usage of another's likeness. I think when you're talking about these memes and these GIFs and so on, they would fall within the ambit and purview of Section 52 of the Copyright Act, which deals with fair use. So it isn't that you have an absolute right or copyright.
Mr. Chattopadhyay, we've lost your audio. Perhaps you may have put it on mute. But we're running out of time, I'm being told. But that was, of course, the comments, the views coming in from some of our panelists there suggesting that this is a matter of IP. This is a growing trend. This is likely to only take off from here. And perhaps the examples that we've seen over the last few months of Amitabh Bachchan as well as now Anil Kapoor may well set the tone for more stars coming forth and seeking such reliefs against misuse and unauthorized access and use of their names, images and persona. With that, we'll head into a very short break now. But coming up, we get you a conversation with Meta India's Vice President, Sandhya Devanathan, on Meta India's business outlook, new features and preparedness for 2024 Lok Sabha elections.